Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. We have a very little season here. Not many people are here. We are doing Satsangs on Tuesdays on the roof, but very small groups, like when I started in the year 2000. Nice that we still can meet in this way, isn't it? So, I'll start with a question. Rivka from Israel has asked. She says, I'm telling often, like, naturally we are happy. We are born to be happy. If we don't disturb it, that happiness is there. But how can we say this to somebody who is in a deep depression? How can we somehow convey the message that it reaches? And it's a good question. How could we possibly do that? It's necessary that the person we are dealing with is also willing to participate, to cooperate. We cannot force anyone to make a step, and we cannot make the step for them. What we can do is to inspire, to advise, energetically support, but yet everyone has to make their own steps. So if we are in contact with somebody in a deep depression, what is important is that we are not letting ourselves be pulled down into a depressive mood. If you can be with such a person and still remain centered, still remain cheerful, then that may somehow spark something in the other person, infect the other person in a positive way, and help to open up that it can pass. But if that readiness is not there, it's very difficult to help. If somebody is in a depression, there is always that gloomy mood, doomsday mood, self-pity. And there it's difficult to reach them. Still, if you can connect with them and remain centered and not being pulled into that, that is inspiring. That is more important than all that we can say. If somebody is too far gone in that depression, then it may be totally justified for some time to get medical aid. It's not that the medicines, the antidepressants and stimulants and God knows what there is, all that they are curing people. I told once, not so long ago, to a psychiatrist, but I mean, these medicines, they don't really cure. And he admitted, no, they don't cure, but they stop the bleeding. which was quite accurate. It can, that somebody who is too deep in a depression can, through the medicines, get a little bit distance that helps them to bridge over until they are ready to start to make really sincere steps again themselves. So Rivka, I'm sorry that I cannot give you a magical formula how to pull anyone out of a depression, but be careful that you don't let yourself be pulled into negativity because of that. That doesn't mean we have to go and play, they just get angry. But inside, you make sure, when you feel that you're getting pulled more and more into negativity, that you reassemble yourself, center in the now, connect with your own true nature, with your own joyousness. And then there's something flows over to the other person, and it helps them whether they are aware of it or not. And otherwise, just be normal, natural, as good as you can. And yet, you can't do the job for them. So, can give a helping hand, can invite them to make a step, and yet they have to make the steps by themselves. Okay, that is the first question that has been written. And then my internet is unstable. I hope you can still hear me. Then the second question that I have gotten in writing is from Lutz, from Berlin. His brother suddenly died. Well, he had cancer, but still, it was quite sudden that he died. And it was a shock for him, naturally. And then he asks, how can we send those who have parted love when there is so much pain in our own experience? It certainly doesn't, that's also what Lutz says, it doesn't help them when we are sad. Well, I mean, sadness will come. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as we don't get pulled into self-pity by sadness, then sadness is nothing wrong. You can still connect with somebody who has parted, even when there is sadness, and feel that heart-to-heart contact. And love can still flow to them. We don't have to go on and on and on with that, but more like in the time, not so long after they left the body, to connect in a loving way, even when there is pain. Then the pain is there. You look at the pain, you think at the being who has departed, and you still can open the heart. Even when there is sadness, even when there is pain, something beautiful can still flow over to them. And then basically wish them well for whatever they encounter. Wish them well what is going to happen to them. And then you let them go. If the thought comes heavily back during that period, still, one can again connect, again center, make sure that we are not getting self-pitying. Even when there is sadness, if there is sadness without self-pity, then sadness can be quite a beautiful and very expansive experience. It's only when we getting pulled into poor little me, self-pity mood, then sadness is becoming small. And when that happens, then it's necessary to have a good look at ourselves and see, oh, there I'm going into that negative emotion of self-pity. Then see the emotion, see what it is doing and let it go. Even if the sadness is there and you connect with the person that has gone, and the heart is opening if there is no self-pity, even if there is sadness. And wish them well, that's all. It's not that we have to still somehow, oh, forgive me for this and forgive me for that, and I forgive you for this and I forgive you for that. Okay, you're fine. I'm still here. You are, God knows where it will take you. I wish you well. May you be well. And then let them go. I experienced that very strongly when my father died. I've recently told that only towards the end of his life, we really had some friendship between the two of us. There was a strong energetic connection, which happens automatically if you spend many years in the same household. But we were friends only at the end. And he was already also diagnosed with cancer, had already done chemo. When I met him, then after that he stayed for 1.5 years. Yeah, nearly 2 years after that, and then he left his body. By that time, I was back in India. I was back in my cave. I knew what was going on. My sister had written me before and asked me whether I could come back. He's soon going to die. And I wrote back, well, I'm in the middle of something. I'll connect from there, but I'm continuing what I'm doing. And then from then on, every day, I spent some time connecting with my father, energetically and feeling also physically, hoping that I can make it a bit smoother for him, that there is less pain. And I think he did something. Actually, I'm sure he did something. And then one day, there was something strange. Still, I felt that energetic connection, but somehow on the physical level that was strange. And then I got the telegram that he has passed away. So I still connected with him very strongly and felt that connection is there. And then the next day, the same, and the next day, the same. But actually, at that time, the last time I did that, it felt previous, I felt very welcome, and I felt there is a connection. But then the last time, it felt like he was already so much removed from this level. And the feeling was more, why is this fellow still coming? Like an unwanted visitor. Still, there was a friendly feeling. So I felt this is time to say goodbye, wishing him well, and sending him off wherever he went. Time functions differently when we are not embodied. And it will also be different from one to another. Some may hang around quite for some time, and others are being removed from this level very quickly. So we are not obliged to go on and on and on, do things. There are traditions, they recommend that people should do that, and then if people are in those traditions, I think it's better they do. But if that is not general requirement which is in everybody's head, then it's also not in the mind, in the consciousness of those who leave. And so there's no problem if we don't do that. But we can properly connect and say goodbye and wish them well, and then let them go. When this happened with my father, I felt this was perfectly fine. It was great, unexpected actually, that we could have had a nice relationship towards the end of his life, because before he were always a bit. And then it was nice to feel so connected and say goodbye, and that's that. Then there was no feeling of unfinished business, and I should have done this and I should have done that. Okay, wherever he goes, his human experience is over, and now he is in God's hand. And it's best that we let them go, that we don't try to keep them around when they are gone. There may be some spirits who want to stick around, and if we feel the connection with them, we can try to convince them, hey, let go of this. You are not more belonging here. You can go into much newer and different realms. Don't stick to that three-dimensional place any longer. But others, most of them, they leave, and very quickly this story is finished. So we say goodbye. Farewell, wherever you go. If the pain comes, Lutz asked, but how can we send love if we feel so much pain? If the pain comes, then don't fight against it. If the pain comes because of the sense of loss of somebody we were close to, and suddenly we can't communicate anymore, it's bound to create pain. But then don't fight against the pain. Let the pain come, experience it consciously, fully. And then if we don't hook into it and add stories that we go round and round, then it's an experience, actually a very profound experience. It comes, it stays a moment, it goes. It may come repeatedly, but it's not staying and pressing and pulling us down into negativity. Then that pain in itself is an enriching experience. It comes, it's there for some time, we fully experience it. Don't fight it. And then if we don't feed it and hold on to it, it's not that it hangs on and on the road. It comes in waves, it's there for a moment, it goes. All right. Then I leave this question also. And I ask, is there anybody who would like to come in? Let me see. We are 33 people here. Is there anybody who would like to talk? Please come in. You are welcome.
Yes, it's me, Lutz.
Hello, Lutz.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for your elaborate explanation and guidance. What was very interesting for me that you said sadness, you can, the feeling of sadness itself is not bad. It is even a kind of, can be a kind of expansive experience. This attitude is very alien to me.
Yeah,
I experienced a pain and the sadness very overwhelming, very intense for a quite short time, but I couldn't really deal with it. I was kind of helplessly, I would say, fried or immersed in it. And I couldn't do anything but crying, maybe, kind of letting go by crying of it.
Yes.
And the whole thing made me feel rather helpless.
Yeah.
So my therapy or my way of dealing with it was then going with nature and looking at all the beautiful things, the sky, the water, the earth, the trees and everything, and find some consolation or some kind of inner balance. And then after some time, it was completely gone. And I was again kind of normal or centered. But at the same time, I also felt I haven't really dealt with this sadness. This sadness was gone, but I have not really understood the lesson, or I have maybe understood the lesson, but I felt I still couldn't deal with the sadness. I just pushed it away. I kind of buried it in myself. So for me, it is a kind of interesting pointer what you said, that sadness actually can be also good.
Right. I mean, when it was so overwhelming, you dealt very well with it by not getting completely crushed, but you go into nature and you connect, and then it disappeared. But you say maybe it's still there, but buried, and it may come back. And if it comes
it feels
back,
like that.
And if it comes back, it won't be in that overwhelming, crushing strength like in the first moment. And then maybe you can try to fully welcome the sadness and say, okay, let me be sad. And just watch what it is doing and consciously be sad. And if we're not struggling with it, then suddenly sadness can turn into really something very beautiful, expansive. There was. Yeah.
I've never experienced something like that. I do not recall. Sadness for me was always something very undesirable and something which should go away as fast as possible. But to kind of allow it to go through me and stay with it, it's a kind of your concept.
Yeah, the thing is,
and for me,
the thing is, if we don't fight it, then it's not staying longer. Rather, the contrary. When we struggle with sadness, then we also feed energy into it. When we try to push it away. But if you welcome it, then it's there. It comes, if you don't resist against it, it may come stronger. But if you just accept it and see what it is doing, how it really feels, if we accept it and relax in it, then we don't feed it, it stays there for some time and it will smoothly go away. All by itself. There was a Mahatma, a lady, Chilela Mudiyama. You may have heard about her.
Oh yes, I'm good friends with Richard, who was very close with her.
Right, and she was married and had children, and then her daughter died. And she cried and she manifested all that sadness, and her disciples were thinking, but hey, she should be totally detached and Mahatma and Jnani, and how can she now be so sad? And they finally had the courage to question her, hey, how is it possible? Your daughter dies and you seem to be completely overwhelmed with sadness. And she said, hey, now there is a situation. Now let me enjoy sadness for some time. And for 2 days, she was all sad and crying. And then she let it go and was her usual cheerful self. Any emotion, all the emotions that we also call negative emotions, we can learn to deal with them, that we don't fight with them, but accept them when they come. And either just observe them and relax and let them go, or sometimes really go into it and fully experience them. And then that not resisting against something that we usually call and feel is negative, that in itself may drive us very deep into our own resources. When we don't do what we usually do, from the personal level, we have our reactions that are quite ingrained, and then there comes something, and my usual reaction would usually be no, 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 no. And the very fact that we are not doing that is already quite an opening that the consciousness can go that much deeper into our own self, into our own source. So try to welcome the sadness if it comes back.
Okay. Yeah, it's the whole thing was not such a catastrophic event. It was clear that my brother will be dying sooner or later within months. But
yeah.
Actually, everybody expected that he would live more.
Yeah.
And then he very suddenly died. That was a surprise. But somehow, maybe by his intent or maybe accidentally,
yeah.
I visited him just the evening before he actually died.
Yeah.
And we had a wonderful afternoon together.
I see. Oh,
which,
nice.
was not, which was not normal, or we for many years we have been struggling, and but in the end somehow we came closer, and the very last evening or time we spent together was very beautiful.
Oh,
that
nice.
That was
nice.
A kind of yeah, kind of a circle, kind of some good ending.
Yeah, yeah, nice. So you're not feeling now, oh, there is so much, you're not feeling now, oh, there is so much unfinished business and we should have and this and that.
No, absolutely, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I feel, I always thought I always thought that the way he lived his life was kind of not a good example, and he's a kind of a loser, and most probably he's very unhappy with his life. But in his last days, it became very clear, or in the last time, it became very clear that he was happy what he has experienced here, and he was content with what he had experienced here. He came for that, to experience all this chaos and being a loser and all these things. but he was happy with it. And
Yeah.
that was very consoling for me, and
Yeah.
just filled me with love for him, whatever he has done. So
Yeah.
that was very beautiful.
Nice. Yeah. Very good. Then you can wish him well and let him go wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Shall we leave it at that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Hari Om. Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to come in?
I don't know, it's Udi.
Hello, Woody.
I really want to continue with what Lutz have raised up about the sadness and the painful that is coming with.
Yes.
Because I had a feeling that, at least in my life, for many, many years, I usually treat this feeling of painful or sadness by a very simple way of cover it, ignore it, cover it under the carpet and so on. And my life continued for many years. But then I found that this genie is coming back to my life whenever I'm not prepared.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm vulnerable. And there are many people that around me or my friend that this is coming like what we call today a post-trauma. And then the issue of dealing with that is like, writing the history backwards.
Yeah.
And I have the question is that to stay with this sadness and pain that is coming and looking on it in a different way, in a harmonic way that is accepting, that is not ignoring, that is even floating over this feeling and let it go by itself, and then it's feel like we digest it, okay, and hopefully not find it later in our life. And this is also my question: how we can stay in this in a feeling of harmony, in a feeling of some peaceful, and looking on something that is sad, it's truly sad and painful, and truly solve this issue, and it will not come back.
Right. I mean, you may resolve it for the moment, but not totally. And then after some time, it may still come back and you do it again. And then it may be resolved after repeatedly doing that. You cannot decide, now I'm sitting down and resolve the issue. When the issue comes, you deal with it. And then it goes away again. And maybe it's resolved, maybe not totally. It may come back. But how is it possible to stay with it in harmony when something comes back, something that has really rattled us, something that is really sad, by learning not to resist against the fact that it has happened like this? We're making experiences heavy and painful mainly with our resistance. It should not be, why has this happened? It should not have been like this. If we can accept it, then already the biggest part of the pain and the strain is gone. Okay, I may not understand it, I may not get a great teaching out of it, but still, it's a confrontation and a challenge that I deal with a situation and become bigger, grow with it, instead of it making me smaller. By accepting, all right, there it comes again. The sadness comes up, the memory comes up, and the first reaction is no, no. And then, okay, come, be here, let me feel it. And then when the memory starts to go round, and there we are in the tendency again of maybe thinking, why has it happened? It shouldn't have happened. It could have happened differently. Then, all right, it has happened as it has happened. Accept it as the divine will, as the cosmic will, that it has happened as it has happened. And if there is not a great lesson that springs out of it that I have to understand, then we can just accept, okay, for me it's a challenge to deal with it, and by dealing with it with harmony and acceptance, I'm getting that much the stronger, and my consciousness can become more expansive instead of smaller. The key word is to stop resisting against facts. Something that has happened, and we keep on resisting that it has happened that way. And as long as we are doing that, always makes us miserable. If we can give up that resistance and accept, okay, that doesn't mean we have to like the event. It doesn't mean we have to like what happened, what the others did, what I did, what has happened. But we can accept, okay, that's how it has happened, instead of resisting against the fact. And then the emotions that come up with it can be dealt with in such a way that they lose their power to create trouble in our life.
You know, it was 2 years ago, before the corona, I was in Tiruvannamalai, and while sitting on the mountain, I promised myself not to be an anger person, because I was an angry person about my father death coming. And I promised, and I came back to my home, and I felt that I'm not dealing with it okay. And then only after a talk with my father that I asked for forgiveness for everything, and the same that he had done, I felt this calmness, I felt this quiet that entered to my life.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I didn't put everything behind the carpet and trying to struggle with it years after it was finished, because I wouldn't have any way to really dissolve it as it should be. And I still have the feeling that even our struggling with fearness and sadness, but in the real time, is the most important thing.
Right. We have to deal with what is happening now. And that are the circumstances that we meet, but it's also with what comes up out of our memory, out of our subconscious, and troubles us. And it's good to deal with it as it comes and let it go as it goes, without resisting that it comes and without trying to put it under the carpet. Resolve it as good as we can when it comes up.
Without resisting is also without the feeling of struggling with something.
As long as it's charged very heavily with emotions, with tensions, what comes up, then in the beginning it may still feel like struggling, because we have the tendency to be pulled again into the mood we were when this happened. But then if we learn to accept the situation and watch the emotions that come up with it, it stops being a struggle. And tensions that created that sense of struggling, they gradually disappear if we don't fight with them, if we don't struggle with them, if we don't try to suppress them again, but accept, okay, they are there, let them come, experience them, and try not to get lost in the past, in the story, but be here now and see what it is happening, what it is doing to you right now. And there we can let go. And so the old tensions, maybe in one stroke, they go away or they go gradually away. It's different from one situation to another.
So true. Really appreciate your words.
You're welcome. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Is there anybody else who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Hi, Werner. It's Christina.
Hello, Christina.
Hi. I have, I guess it's maybe a question or just something I want to share. I need some guidance on. So I think like a lot of other people, I feel like I'm shifting a lot and that some level of transformation is happening. And I'm losing kind of my old self.
Too bad.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy. But it's I experienced this battle the other day with I spent like an evening with an old friend of mine that I've known for 20 years that I have a history with, and I had a feeling I shouldn't go. It was like we went to the mountains. We were in, near Verbier, and it was beautiful. And I experienced this battle in my mind between my old self, for lack of a better word, and my new self.
Yeah.
And I was feeling, it felt such a disconnect, and I felt so bad. My heart was racing, and it was like I was acting out my old self so much that it was just so theatrical. And it became like kind of very weird.
Yes.
And then my new self came in, and it was like I felt like I was going a little crazy.
Just a moment. I'll try to tell the neighbor not to spray right now because of the noise. I'm so sorry. But very sorry. But he really started with his machine right beside here. And then when I told him, he still continued. So I went down and jumped in the middle of the rice field and made him stop. Now he's in a nearby field. I still can hear you, I hope, when you talk. It's not so loud when he's doing that there. Anyhow, you can pick up right where you stopped with your visit, and it felt so strange and artificial, huh?
Yes. And that I was kind of watching the battle between the old and the new. I was like stepping out of myself and watching it, and then falling into the old, and then falling into the new. It was very, it was destabilizing. It made me really, I felt like afterwards when I left, I felt like this huge like loss, that I was going to lose this friendship, like that people are falling away. And not that I necessarily want to keep it, but it's just that feeling of that loss of like, because of the change. And then just feeling like kind of embarrassed or weird that this all happened.
Yeah, right. I think you will have more experiences like this. When we really start to change, then suddenly this may start to happen. Old acquaintances, they have a certain image of you, and you have your history, and then partly you want to fulfill their expectation of your image, but partly you don't want. And then sometimes it may be a bit weird. It's better to accept, okay, maybe the friends, they can accept that you're changing, and then be yourself naturally as you are now, without playing the role that you used to play before. And if after that it's not more possible with certain people, then maybe you take more distance naturally. That also the others may not be interested anymore so much in communicating. Somehow it's the magic that takes care by itself, that then you just drift a bit apart. So don't think that you have to play your old role. You don't have to go around and shock people. I have changed, but be natural, be yourself as you feel like now. And then it's somehow it's arranging by itself that some people may take a bit more distance and other new people may come closer because they feel attracted by that. That's how it goes. We can't hold on to all the friendships we had. If we change, then some will drop off.
Yeah, for some, I have a feeling that the universe brought me to this place to show me something.
Right.
And that it, you know, had this, it was very intense. And I'm like, I think also because we've been in lockdown for so long now, and I haven't had that many interactions. And then, and I use the time to like, you know, be with myself a lot. And then actually, it was like the first day after they opened everything up in Switzerland. And it was like, it's interesting. But yeah, there's a sense of like death, you know, like part of me is dying.
Right. And we have to learn to die continuously. Instead
well,
of
I didn't hear you.
We have to learn to die continuously. And then if we learn to die every moment, finally we are really alive. In a way, every moment that we let go, that we don't hang on to, is like a little death. Like something, okay, it's there, it's no more there. After all, that's what that is. Something, somebody is there, but then they are no more there. And the situation is there, we let it go, it's no more there. It's like you die every moment to that which has been there and is now the past, and then you are open and new and fresh for what is now. And if we don't do that, if we hang on to it, then we are not really here and have always all that baggage of the past that we are carrying along unnecessarily.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm hanging on to the story now too.
Yes.
You know,
everybody does that.
Let that die. Yeah, it's liberating when you do that.
It's liberating. It's simply when we keep on holding in the mind and think everything that has been somehow positive or important in the past, I have to hold on to, then the idea of letting it go may feel, oh, it's terrible, losing that, or it's dangerous. But if we stop hanging on to it and really let go, then it's totally liberating. It's like, we can breathe, we can live now.
Yes.
So it's a good experience. It's good how strongly you have seen that, and now you can accept it. May be a bit like this. So if it happens, so be it. If some people take more distance, so be it. If others come closer, so be it. I don't have to be untrue to myself. After all, we are always playing a role. Whatever we are doing, we are playing a role in this world. But we can play that role which we feel is right, feels right now. That's an honest, true expression of myself. We can play that role, but not the role that we used to play simply because it's the habit in certain places.
Thank you, Werner.
You're welcome. Hariho, hariho.
Adios.
Is there anybody else who would like to come in? I don't know whether you can hear it very loudly on your end. For me, it's just possible, like that when he is not in the immediate surroundings, but on the next field. Could have waited. He knows that I'm having my class on live. Could have waited till after. Would not have been a difference for them, but people are like it. I hope he's not coming right back here to this place. Is there anybody who would like to come in? You're welcome. What Christina just told is something that often people who really started to become more conscious in their life, then suddenly they had that confrontation. Naturally, if I'm more conscious, certain traits that I had been holding on to will start to drop off. In certain ways, I will behave the same. In certain ways, I will behave differently. Why? Because when it's becoming a spontaneous expression of how I feel, of what I experience, then naturally, when my consciousness changes, becomes more expansive, goes deeper, then externally, the expressions also will change. And some people may be very happy about it. You think, oh, you changed so nicely, I'm so happy. And other people may think, oh, what's wrong with them? They were so nice, we could have such a good time together, and it's not more working. It's better to accept it. This is going to happen. And it's good to be true to oneself. We can adapt our behavior. In certain company, we may behave somewhat different than in other companies. But as long as I feel I'm still true to myself, it's perfectly fine. But we have to be careful not to play a role which I know I don't want to play it anymore, but I'm doing it for the sake of keeping up a friendship, for the sake of not getting confrontations with people. And then it is nagging and disturbs our own peace. Be true to yourself, authentic. Then you are at peace with yourself. And then when you are at peace with yourself, it doesn't really matter whether others are appreciating it or not. And we can do whatever we like. Some people will like it, some people will not like it. And if we change, then new people will come and will appreciate what we are doing, and old people we have been in contact will think, oh, strange, and automatically keep your distance. And right, it is somewhat like dying, letting go. And we have to give up that idea that dying is something bad. It's part of life. It's part of the circle of creation. That's also why in the Hindu religion, this is symbolically manifested that there are the three main gods. There is the creator, there is the one who is holding it together, and there is the one who is again annihilating the creation. And this is not something that once upon a time Brahma has created, and now Vishnu is holding it, and once in the future Shiva will remove the whole thing. It's a process that is happening all the time. It's a continuous creation out of this timeless now. And all the three aspects are necessary that it can be a harmonious and beautiful and expansive experience. Something comes into being, it's there for some time, and then it goes away again. And we can learn to accept, to play alone. Something comes, sometimes we like it, then we are happy. Sometimes we don't like it, we are not happy, but we still can learn to accept. We can let it be there for some time, and then it will be forced again. And we can learn to accept that we equally joyous, like the things that come, those that go, they go. And then it's in a way like dying every moment, letting go the moment that was there, but then you become aware dying is not something negative. Dying is part of being born, of being alive. And if we cannot die, we can also not live. And if we learn to die every moment, if we learn to let go the moment that is gone, then we live in a much greater intensity. Then the attention is not always hanging on in the past to something. It's not always going in the future to something. But then we are here, we are now alive, and here now in the timelessness, there is the only point where we are touching reality. All else is in the mind. Is there anybody else who would like to talk? Please come in. have we been talking too much about death and dying so that you don't dare to come in?
Hello.
Hello. I'm hearing a voice. I'm not seeing anything. Ah, there you are. Hello, Anita.
Hello, Werner.
Just a question, is the noise very strong for you of the machine that is there?
Actually, that is not very strong, but somehow the connection is a little bit bad. So it's a little bit, for me, it's a little bit difficult to hear you, but the sound is not so good, but it's okay. Just have to be very careful to,
I think it's also because the computer and Zoom tries to screen out the background voice, and then it does all kinds of funny things.
Yeah, that could be, but it's okay. The background is not so bad. It's okay. It's not such a good sound quality today, but it's okay.
But could you at all follow what I was talking about?
I could follow, yes, but I have to be very, very attentive. Then it's okay.
I see. Okay.
Which is good because that brings me into here now.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to talk about. It's the only time or place where I touch reality. That's how I experience it also. And there is in my experience, it's happening too little. And I also heard or learned or experienced also that when I'm not totally present, then my subconscious program is actually active, and so I'm like I'm lived by my programs most of the time, and I suppose many other people also live like that. And then there are some sparks in between where there's something exciting, nice, and I'm totally here. But then I also heard that if we are thinking in a kind of thought process, then at the same time the subconscious is also working. And I'm busy with this in that way that I'm how to say, I'm doing a course in how to manifest. I thought, okay, I try that and see if I can willfully manifest something. And also there I learned that there are two ways of manifesting. That is either I'm totally conscious in the here and now.
Yes.
Or I try to reprogram the subconscious with affirmations which are very connected with emotion and a lot of focus. So there are these two ways of manifesting and living also. And I feel like I know both, so I experience both, but I don't know, I think it's it's all a little bit, I don't know what the question really is.
Yeah, you are a bit insecure whether you should go for manifesting like this, or?
Well, no, I'm trying it, but anyway, it doesn't. I cannot force myself to do like affirmations all day. I just do it like when I feel the impulse or yeah.
It's not that you have to try to now be in control of your life and have and manifest all the things that you want manifest. Let the life manifest what it wants, and you learn to live in such a way that every situation can be enriching, whether it's a situation to your liking or not liking. And then if something is there that you really want to change or manifest, you can put your intent in it. But basically, it's also good to just let the story take its course and deal with the situations as they come in a creative way.
But if I'm conscious that the subconscious is working, then it's, I think it's not fun to let it take its course, because then all the past conditioning is taking its course, which is saying not so positive things, you know?
Yeah, right. Okay, and if you can neutralize it with affirmations, it's fine. Or you can just see, oh, there, it's working, it tries to push, and the very seeing it, and you are not going along, will also do the job. If you are conscious,
so
if you are aware of the subconscious and the mechanisms they come and try to take over and direct the show, then the very awareness it's enough that you can say, oh no, I'm not going down that alley. But if it helps you, you can make affirmations. But you're right, don't now affirm things the whole day long. Once in a while, focused affirmation is fine, but then not go on and on and on, ramba, affirm. More important to just be here now, conscious. And there we see the pulse of the old patterns. And when we see the pulse, sometimes it will pull us in spite of that, but the very fact that we see it is already the possibility, the chance that we say, oh, actually, now I'm not going there. Now I'm just turning this way.
Yeah, so it's a kind of combination maybe to whenever I can be really consciously conscious. And otherwise I can, yeah, try something new and use some tools.
Yes.
You mentioned something just before about if I'm not satisfied with the situation, how it is.
Yeah.
I do experience that quite sometimes with life situations.
Yes.
So how to go about it? To see that.
Right. You can always bring your creative intent into the story. That you intend that it would turn rather this way and change in this way. At the same time, learn to have that broad-heartedness that you accept how much of it manifests, how much of it works. That no matter whether your ideas are manifesting in situations and events or not, you are still complete here now. There is that which is important in you that is not affected. And if the situation is not to our satisfaction, then we can accept, okay, it's not what I like, but that doesn't mean it has to affect me negatively.
Yes.
I mean, we are here to live in this world, and so we can very well arrange things the way we like it, if it's possible, but not make our well-being dependent that things are turning out the way we want it. Sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not working. And when, if we can accept that, if we can develop that growth out of this, then our well-being is not affected by it. Then okay, sometimes the things are turning out very nicely, very smoothly, and sometimes not. So be it. Let it come, it's there for some time, and it goes.
You always say quite sometimes that if in a situation you don't feel good, to see how to say how what does it do to my body, right?
Right. It's a good way to bring the attention to the present and withdraw it from the situation, from the idea, from the person who brought it about, and deal with the immediate experience. To just watch what it is doing to your experience, and the easiest place where we can perceive it is what it is doing to the body. When we feel that in the belly, when you feel how we are tending our legs, how they're getting all tense, there we can directly on that work on it by simply consciously relaxing. And if we physically relax, then automatically we relax, at least to some extent, energetically also. And if we physically and energetically relax to some extent, we may not be able to relax totally, but at least we relax to some extent, then emotionally, intellectually also, that relaxation will come easy. And it's easier then to let the thing go that is nagging and driving us up the walls.
And if it's something that makes me sad, I mean I do relax to release it, or what is the relaxation for? For example, if something makes me sad,
yeah,
then yeah.
It depends what kind of sad. There is this sad which is also angry about things, and then
no,
there is
more the melancholic
sadness. Yes,
that I'm not loved, and you know.
Yeah, right. There you can have a very good, sincere, honest look at it, and you see how much of it is that old personality slipping into self-pity. Poor me, oh my God, poor me, nobody loves me, nobody understands me. When you have this kind of thoughts and feelings, you know, oh, there I'm really in the line of self-pity. And that I have to see and let go. For if we go into that, if you hang on to that, there I'm creating pain all the time. If I don't work, I have to let go of self-pity. But still, the situation may bring up sadness because of a disharmony, without that I'm slipping into that mood. Oh, it's so terrible. Why am I experiencing this? Why don't they understand me? Why? No. But just, okay, the situation of disharmony is there, and there may be some sadness, and then you can accept the sadness. Not try to push it away to think, oh, it's a bad feeling. Okay. there is the sadness that comes, and when you are accepting the sadness and watch the sadness, you're already withdrawing your attention from the situation that brought it about. And then we are not spending our time and energy thinking, it shouldn't be like this, it shouldn't be like this, I have to do something about it. Sometimes we have to do something about it. Then there is no question, we just go and do. Like I run to the neighbor and tell him, please go over, because I can't talk anymore. But otherwise, maybe just withdraw the attention from the situation that brought the emotion about, but accept the emotion and deal with that emotion, and then it's certainly not more what about experience.
Yeah, like you said before, that this woman enjoyed the sadness. If you don't fight it, you can enjoy it. Yeah.
If we are in the present, if we learn to relax in the present, where we become aware there is that joyousness of existence always there. We become aware more and more. It's something that we gradually get more and more aware of. It may happen, boom, suddenly that you are quite in a new perspective and much more aware, but still there is a process that you get more and more aware of that joyousness of existence. And the more you are aware of that, the more you will be surprised you can enjoy the weirdest situations.
Okay.
The weirdest situations outside, and even the emotions that come up. Emotions that we try to push away, that we shun, if we stop struggling with them, and suddenly we can become aware, we can even enjoy those emotions.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. Shall we leave it at that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Is there anybody else who would like to come in?
Hello, Werner.
Hello. Patrick?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
I have a question about the method from Ramana Maharshi. Who am I?
Yes.
Is asking, and other methods like awareness of awareness method from Michael Langford, or the consciousness of consciousness. Is this all the same, or is there, or what are the differences?
The essence is the same, but how you go about it is a little bit different in the beginning, but then more and more it becomes the same. And then even if you say the method of self-inquiry, who am I, from one person, how they go about it, and the other person, there are also differences. But the essence of the practices is that we learn to detach our attention from our mental obsessions and bring it back to that which simply is, that ground that is not changing. The question, who am I, is not a question that ever has an answer. You are the answer. It's not that eventually, if you ask that question enough, eventually it clicks in your head, it springs up, and you say, now I got it, now I understand it. It's just one way of contradicting the mind with, I'm like this, I'm like that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and this is happening, and I'm reacting this, and the whole chatter that goes on in the mind about myself and my world and my view and my experience, like it's there like a sport reporter that is telling the story all the time, and the question of who am I is like a stopper to that. And redirecting the attention to that source that makes the thoughts and the actions and the experience possible. And so is consciously being conscious, aware of being aware. It's just a slight difference how one goes about it. But even the who am I, as I said, from one to another, it's different. And then in your sadhana, if you do that self-inquiry, it may also slowly change character. That in the beginning, it's maybe more asking the question, who am I? Who am I? And somehow listening to the where it's coming from. But then this question, you may also give the answer, oh, I am. But then the experience also gets more and more. But it is not more so much an inquiry, but simply it's becoming aware. I am. Who am I? I am. Then you may even start to somehow affirm that with thinking, I am. Help it with the thought, but then let the thought go and shift the attention to that which is expressed by that simple statement, I am. To that most familiar sense of presence. And learn to let go in that. The question, who am I? Brings you in contact, and then it's a letting go. But so does when you make an attempt to be consciously conscious, it's basically doing the same. It brings you in touch with that sense of presence. Instead of being half asleep conscious and just be aware of whatever goes there on in the relative level, be alert, be conscious of being conscious here, now. And when you become aware of that sense of presence that has been there all along, all your life, that is not changed, however much your body changes, your mind changes, your personality changes, your relationship changes, the most familiar sense of presence is always there. And you just have to find a way to bring the attention back to that until it happens effortlessly, spontaneously, naturally. For this, we have all these methods, but the methods themselves, they don't really matter. The essence of it is that you bring your attention back home, whether it's by you and I, or being consciously conscious, or observing the mind, or by devotion to God, feeling that divine presence, calling God, repeating God's name, just to bring your attention in touch with that.
And thank you. And how important is it to do this all the time, or only 1 hour every day?
It's not a part-time job. It's helpful if you have every day some time where you are doing nothing else, where you can put your undivided attention on that. And then just bring that attitude as good as you can in your daily life. When you are busy with people, when you are going for your job, when you live your usual life. But it's not that you have to go back with the idea now grinding your teeth and I have to do my inquiry now the whole time, but keep a playfulness about it. But just whenever you remember, whenever you become aware, oh, my attention is again so far off from that, then learn to consequently bring it back again. Ask the question, or breathe, or whatever you are using as a help. Bring the attention to the present, and then let go. And if we do that consequently, whenever we remember, without bringing in that mood of heavy duty we have to perform, but happily go about it, because we become more and more aware. Whenever I am really consciously in touch with the now, everything is so much easier, so much simpler. So we like to learn more and more to like to do it, not as a spiritual task to perform. So, and then it will be more and more and more simply there, whatever you are doing, until it just goes so deep that it happens spontaneously, effortlessly, all by itself, whatever you are doing, that it doesn't leave you anymore.
Thank you, Werner.
You're welcome. I think if there is not suddenly an urgent question there, then we stop for today. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.